Alright, so we learned about the dot product of two vectors. Now, what does that mean geometrically? It gives us some information about the angle between two vectors. Okay? So it doesn't matter it's a vector in R3 or vector in R2. So we have two vectors, same idea. Then when we have two vectors, we can talk about their dot product. And if we have two vectors, then we can talk about the angle between these two vectors. So again, this can be something R2, can be something R3. It's the general formula. All right, so you know how to find the number on the left-hand side using the formula for dot product. Geometrically, that scalar, that number you get from computing dot product is the length of u times the length of v times cosine theta. Cosine of this is theta. Okay. So let me give you an example. Suppose u is a vector 1, 0. V is a vector 0, 1. Okay? In fact, these are the standard unit vectors. I could say I and j. Okay, so I know on R2, U goes here, V goes here, because they are very special. I know in this case, the theta is 90 degrees, so that's a half pi. And because I'm from trigonometry, we know cosine a half pi equals 0. So here we secretly know something. We know the length of u is equal to 1. Because this is a unit vector, 1, 0. We know the length of v is equal to 1. And we know cosine a half pi is equal to 0. So on the right hand side, we have length of length of u times the length of v times cosine, this is theta. This equals 1 times 0, so this is 0. So let's go back and see if the dot product does give us 0. So if I follow the formula u dot v, I should have 1 times 0 plus 0 times 1. So I do get 0 plus 0, which equals 0. Okay, so this confirms we do have, in this case, it equals length of v times length of u times cosine theta. Okay, so in general we can say, okay, let's say u is equal to let's do 1, 0, and v is equal to 1, 1. All right, so let's see what do we get. U dot v, according to the formula, this equals 1 times 1 plus 0 times 1, so that gives me 1. Okay. On the right hand side of the equation, length of u is equal to 1. Length of v is equal to, okay, square root of 1 squared plus 1 squared, so this is root 2. Okay. And now we have cosine theta. Suppose we don't know how big the cosine theta is. But according to the formula, we should have u dot v, which is equal to 1, equals length of u times length of v times cosine theta. Okay? So now I have a formula tells me the information about the angle between these two vectors, meaning the cosine of the angle is equal to, okay, let's simplify this, bring the 1 over 2, root 2 to the other side. So we have cosine theta equals 1 over root 2. Okay? Because I divide this equation by root 2. Alright, so I happen to know that when theta is equal to pi over 4, cosine theta is equal to 1 over root 2. This is a spatial angle, so I know. If you don't know, that's okay. I'm just giving an example. So here from there I know that theta should be pi over 4, and then we can check. So here I just want to give you an example to see the formula is legit. So u is the vector 1, 0, right? So unit vector along the x direction. And v is the vector 1, 1. So 1, 1 here. Okay. So you can see that by the construction of the vectors, the angle in between is 45 degrees, meaning it's pi over 4. Okay? So once again, using this example, you see the dot product geometry gives you length of u times length of v times cosine theta. Okay? So even if we have factors in R3, this formula still holds. Okay? Alright. So that's how you can find some information about the angle between two vectors.